going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now.
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, we are back with a live duel and we are featuring Live Twins versus Trickstar Control. Now my buddy went on a bit of a tear, to be honest, especially with this deck. He actually went to the Sanctum Squad Regional and did really well. It finished with a record of 3-3, but he was absolutely tearing it up, slapping people in like less than like 20 minutes a game, which was crazy. But nonetheless, we are testing here, and this is basically testing before the new stuff comes out in Burst of Destiny, which should be released sometime later this week, which is fantastic news because it's been a set that's been highly anticipated. Now the reason why we do live duels and why we test the way that we do, ladies and gents, is mainly because this was the whole idea behind the channel. I wanted to just build a bunch of different decks and play them on the channel, and it has actually kind of come to fruition. However, with my approach to the game lately, I've started to get a little bit more competitive, and I'm actually thinking about participating in a few regionals, so to speak. Now it's a little bit difficult, mainly because obviously I've got young children, so it can be difficult to attend them, but it's something that I'm aiming for. So my buddy starts off with a pot of extravagance, which is always a nice feeling. Being able to draw two for just no reason whatsoever, it's just basically pot of greed. He doesn't really use his extra deck, so he's not really losing anything, and you can tell how confident he is about using the card is because he didn't even check what he banished. He just banished it and was like, yeah, that's fine, all right, I'm just gonna play my game now. So he's got quite a few cards in hand, quite a few interruptions, so to speak, so we'll definitely see how this goes. Now his deck does play a lot of floodgate options in terms of controlling the board, basically, which is not necessarily what is known for Trickstar. Trickstar have traditionally been known for their burn effects and just being able to just kind of like basically dwindle your opponent down to like minimal life points before just attacking for game. But nevertheless, Trickstar Reincarnation and the Duel interaction is a horrible feeling. As you can see, he fires off the Trickstar Reincarnation, making me banish 6 cards out of my hand, and I had quite a few decent cards in that hand as well. It's a difficult thing to play through, to be honest, but nonetheless, he's actually allowed me to mulligan my hand, which is not a problem, and he's actually tried to draw me as well. So when he activates his Duel, I do chain the Cosmic Cyclone just to be able to get rid of his back row, which was an Ice Dragon's Prison. Wow, which could have been a potential bit of a banana skin, to be honest. But the prison's gone anyway, and he's actually Dueled me, which means that my turn is going to be a little bit more difficult, mainly because I can't search cards from deck to hand, so I'm going to have to play a little bit differently. But fortunately for me, Live Twins have a little bit of a consistent way to get to their engines, basically. So I've started off my turn with Live Twin Home, which allows me to special summon 1 Live Twin monster from my deck. Now if any of the Live Twin main deck monsters, which aren't the extenders in Frost and Treat, are special summoned or normal summoned, I can special summon their counterpart from the deck. And in this instance, I'm going to special summon Kill Frost, mainly because it has a little bit of synergy on my opponent's turn. If they search and I control a Leela monster, I can actually banish it to draw a card, which is always a good feeling to be able to draw for your deck and just basically draw into more hand traps, to be honest. So I'm thinking about my plays here. Now typically when you start on off this without the Link 4, which should be coming out in Burst of Destiny, you typically want to go for the card that you want to end up on. So I'm going to start off with going into my Live Twin Kill. I'm going to attack, mainly because I don't want to start doing stuff without getting some damage on board, and I don't want to really play into Nibiru. So fortunately for me, unfortunately for me, he had the Veiler, so there's not a lot I can do here, especially with Duel. So I just basically attack for 1100 and pass turn. So I'm in a bit of a predicament. I didn't really get my engine going. I don't have a Evil Twin Leela engraved to be able to summon to pop, but my opponent did not draw the best of hands, so he's actually gone for a T set here. So I actually draw Cosmic Cyclone off the rip, which is always a nice feeling, and it was a Solemn Strike, which could have been very problematic indeed. So I've gotten rid of a Solemn Strike and Ice Dragon's Prison, and I'm free to play under well, not play under Duel and Lockbird. Now I put my opponents down on resources, and that's one thing that you have to bear in mind when you're playing a control deck, ladies and gents. You need your interactions and your trades, because you're going to be trading resources basically, to be super effective. So I actually search the extender Entreat, which allows it to special summon itself to the field if I control a a Kill monster, which would then allow me to go into blue. Then I can chain blue to be able to special summon the red back from my graveyard and then potentially get a draw. He does have the Veiler, however, which is not much of a problem because he's actually out of resources and he has one card on field. Now, I had to think about this carefully. I thought he actually set a hand trap, mainly because he burnt a lot of his resources trying to just basically stop me from playing the game. So I did say to him, oh, I bet you've set a hand trap there. So I passed turn because I didn't want to attack into a hand trap and just do damage to myself. And I was in a bit of a better position than he was. I had a couple of hand traps in my hand myself, so I was just basically waiting for him to do something, which he doesn't have the best of plays. He's got one monster set and he actually has the Lilybell, which is interesting because Lilybell can attack directly. He tries to go into battle phase, but I actually just Veiler the Lilybell and he decides to crash because I know what's coming next, ladies and gents. Yep. So we have actually tested against each other for a while now, and the fact that he's crashed his Lilybell into my Leela does mean that he is definitely going to play Mystic Mind, which is a fun interaction nonetheless. So I decided to chain my Leela in response to his Mystic Mind and then go into my Kill. Now I can't actually get the draw, mainly because Mystic Mind is live now and I control more monsters than my opponent, so I can't actually do much. Now in this situation it would be good if I could actually go into the Link 4, mainly because it would just allow me to just basically have a little bit of a board presence and not just be subject to having to go into another Link 2 to be able to get a pop. But nonetheless, we're playing that Mystic Mind game, that fun interactive card that everybody loves to play against. So my opponent's just gonna pass, and this just basically is gonna buy him some time just to allow him to refill his hand, get back into the game to be able to get into some of his floodgates and then to be able to play the game basically. So he's got two cards in hand and then got no monsters on field. He decides to set one. Now this could be anything from a Solemn Strike, goes a match, it could be any number of floodgates, there could be only one, could be anything. Nonetheless, I decided to play my live twin Sunny Snitch to be able to add me a live twin monster from my deck to my hand. Now the reason why I did this, and I actually showed this to my opponent, I said to him, you know what, I just wanted to check my deck to see where my Cosmic Cyclone is, just to be able to shuffle it up and hopefully draw into it either on my next turn or when my opponent does something which allows me to draw off my Kill Frost in graveyard. So it also allows me to have Sunny Snitch on the board, which means he actually burns every time he summons a monster, which isn't live at the moment because we obviously be playing on the Mystic Mind, and as soon as he does, my effects are live, so I'll be able to pop the mine, hopefully pop the mine anyway. So again, my opponent draws. It doesn't look like he's had the best of luck with his hand so far, but he is starting to refill his hand and he is quite in it. To be honest, if he was patient and just held out on the mine, he probably could have won this game because I probably would have decked out. But I've drawn it into, I believe it is a Solemn Judgment, and I have to obviously pass back to my opponent. Unfortunately for him, he's drawn into one of his starters, which is his Trickstar Light Stage. So obviously I decide to start interacting. He does have the Infinite Impermanence, which is a bit of an annoying thing to do. So he imperms my Evil Twin and he's allowed to go ahead and get his search off. So he finds himself a Trickstar Candina, normal summons the Candina to be able to activate its effect, and then I strike the Candina. I don't want to see any more kind of Trickstar monsters, get rid of that. He does have a Trickstar Reincarnation engraved, so we can bring it back and beat over my live twin. Now he did burn for a little bit of damage, mainly because I've got Sunny Snitch on field and I do control a Evil Twin monster, so he'll burn for 200 each time he normal or special summons a monster, and because I've got 2 of them on field, it would actually burn for 4. But he does try to chain his reincarnation. I have the Scoremeister in hand, which negates the effect. So he is again down on resources, and his Mystic Mine is off the field. Obviously, he wasn't to know that I had Scoremeister in hand. I actually do have another Scoremeister, to be honest. So now I draw for turn. Again, I'm still trying to get my links on board, which is annoying, but I am very wary of his back row, and I'm very cognizant that he does play a lot of interaction with regards to his back row, so it's something that you need to be aware of. I always just assume that it's going to be a Solemn Strike, as it's one of the most commonly played like trap cards in the game, as well as Infinite Impermanence, obviously. So I decided to activate my Evil Twin monster, and he does have the Imperm, which is a little bit annoying, but nonetheless it's not a problem. So his Imperm the effect. Fortunately for myself, I do have the extender, so I'll go into my Evil Twin blue, my Leela, and then activate Leela's effect to bring back my Kissekil, which should net me a draw. Just get my opponent to cut my deck. So I actually draw into a starter, which is not too shabby indeed. And then because I'm feeling a little bit confident, I decide to link both of those off, because I am actually locked into Fiend monsters from the extra deck when you use any of their effects. I go into my Unchained Abomination, go straight into battle phase and then attack. For 3k, main phase 2, I'd proceed to set 1, which is a Call by the Grave, and then pop his light stage with Unchained Abomination's effect. My opponent draws into a pot of Duality, which is absolutely fantastic. Now there you go, ladies and gents, there are the floodgates that you do not want to see. He's got summon limits in abundance. He's also found a Trickstar Licorice. But at the moment, those floodgates aren't going to do much, especially with Unchained Abomination on field. You want something that's going to remove it, to be honest. But my opponent decides to concede, and we just go basically going into game 2. I had Call by the Grave set anyway, and he only had a Droll and Lockbell in hand, and I also had a Scoremeister. So I actually take game 1, which is interesting, as I actually went second in that game, and it's not often that I actually play through a going second. Sorry, it's not often I play through a board going second, especially with a control deck. So yeah, I take game number 1. So straight into game number 2, ladies and gents, and obviously he's gonna decide to go first, which is what you want to do as a control player. Now, like I mentioned previously, you do need to time your interactions, but when you're playing a deck like this and you've got so many floodgates and interactions, it's nice to know that you can actually play the game. And he does proceed to set 3 cards after I veiled his Candina. Now I do have a little bit of back row hate in my hand, but it's not enough to be able to deal with what he's got on board. I do Cosmic Cyclone, just randomly picking one, and I managed to hit a Solemn Strike, which is always a nice feeling. But obviously I'm going to be burning because of Candina's effect. Now I do need to be aware that he may have a Licorice in hand if he's got any cards left in hand. And I've still got 2 floodgates on field. Now one of them potentially could be a Trickstar Reincarnation, which is not a nice feeling, but nevertheless I decided to go into Live Twin Home to be able to special summon a Live Twin monster from my deck, and then obviously that Live Twin monster would then be able to net me another special summon from deck, because it's on normal or special summon, and it's a if effect, so it won't miss timing. So I go into my Live Twin Leela, and then special summon out my Kissekil Frost. Now the beautiful thing is, once you get these 2 cards on board, you can actually just play with your extra deck, to be honest. you don't really need to go back into your deck for any reason apart from just being able to draw via Kisakill's effect. So on the summon, he does actually Phantasme. Now I could tell he had a hand trap in hand the way that he was flicking it around, and he draws off his Phantasme. I believe he draws an Ash Blossom and another card, and I actually chain my Parallel Exceed, and then I chain triple Tactic Talents. Now this is a critical point in the game, ladies and gents. I potentially should have, I was cognizant of his 2 back row, but I decided to have a look at his hand to be able to rip a card out of his hand. But he's actually thinking here, and he actually changed his Dogmatica Punishment, targeting my Kisakill Frost. Then I actually tried to chain it to bring back my Leela. He has another Solemn Strike, which is crazy. Obviously I'm going to spin back his Pot of Extravagance, but he's actually going to be able to clear my board here. And I potentially should have went for the draw 2, because my Leela is going to die. My Parallel Seed is going to die. Mainly because he's going to pop it with Dogmatica Punishment. And do you know what? Actually, looking back at this interaction, I'm not too sure how this played out, because if he targeted my my Link monster and he popped it with Solemn Strike, Dogmatica Punishment would have actually missed its target there. So I potentially would have been able to carry on with my Parallel Exceed effect. Mainly because it would, the Dogmatica Punishment wouldn't have resolved, because it would have lost its target, and it wouldn't have been able to send Enters to grave. But after a short discussion, we just decided that all my monsters got cleared. I've got no cards in hand. He's cleared my whole field. He's also got a Candina and a Phantasme on field. He proceeds to go into battle phase and attack with both Candina and Phantasme, doing a whole host of damage. And I'm on top deck mode, to be honest. And it's not looking too well for myself. Now there's a few things that I could have done, so I actually decided to concede there. There was no point in continuing. I was on top deck mode. He had Phantasme, Candina on field. I'd all of my resources got blown, and yeah, that would have been game. So we're on to game 3, ladies and gents. Game 3 it is. It's 1-1. I took game 1 going second. He took game 2 going first. And I believe that I did not side. Now that's something that's going to come back to bite me, to be honest. Especially with knowing what this deck does. Now he actually shows his hand to the camera, and it's a whole load of hate. So I normal summon my Live Twin Kisakill to be able to go to special summon my Live Twin Leela. And he was actually telling me that his hand was so bad. And to be honest, I just go through my regular plays as normal, going into my Evil Twin Kisakill and activating its effect to bring back my other evil Live Twin monster. But before I do, I actually have the Parallel Exceed in hand, so I chain it to be able to summon my other Parallel Exceed. Now what I didn't actually realize, ladies and gents, is I'm going to go into Baguska here, but I didn't realize Baguska was a fiend, so I could have actually summoned Baguska after, or at any point, to be honest, if you use any of the Evil Twin monsters effects, because it's a fiend monster. And if you didn't know, ladies and gents, when you use the Link monster effects, you actually lock yourselves into special summoning fiend monsters from the extra deck. And I was actually showing that to my opponent, because it was something that I didn't actually realize. I never knew what Baguska's typing was. So I proceed to summon Baguska, and then I'll go into my regular plays as normal. So I use Kisakill's effect to be able to special summon a Leela monster from grave, to then link off into Evil Twin Leela, and then use Leela's effect to bring back my Kisakill, which should allow me to net me a draw. So I let my opponent cut my deck, and draw a card, which is the beautiful thing about this deck, ladies and gents. You can literally just draw for your engine, along with Kissikill's effect as well as Frost effect engrave. It's just a nice feeling. So then I proceed to link off again. Now in this instance, ladies and gents, if I did have the link 4, I would definitely go into the link 4, and that would be my turn done and dusted. I've got Baguska on field as well as the link 4, but in this moment, wow, in this moment in time, I can only go back into another Kissikill and then set a couple of cards. Now my opponent is just saying, you've got a Solemn Strike set. He's trying to guess my back row basically, but he proceeds to activate Mystic Mine, which just has to get banished from the field. Now to be honest, I should have actually waited and seen what his plays were, because he actually goes into a Pot of Duality, which then nets him some follow-up. So he decides to take the Solemn Strike, which is something that I need to be cognizant of, mainly because I want to activate my monster's effects. So he has a whole host of interactions on my turn. So he proceeds to set 1, 2, 3, 5 cards, ladies and gents. So that's a lot of back row to play through. So during the main phase still, I decide to special summon my Leela to be able to pop a card. So I pop one of his back row, then I actually chain Twin Twister because I'm trying to remove as much back row as possible before I go into my turn. So I'll get rid of a strike, I believe, and I think I might have hit a reincarnation. Now there's still 2 cards on field, which is a little bit difficult to play through, but nevertheless he proceeds to pass turn with 2 cards on field. Now this is where I make a little bit of a mistake, ladies and gents. Not here, but I will explain what I mean. So I decide to activate my secret password, which will allow me to search for a in archetype spell or trap, and in this instance I'm going to search for my Sunny Snitch. Activate my Snitch, which will allow me to search for a live twin monster. Now in this instance, because I'll have both of them on field, I can actually search for an extender or I can search for a starter, which is a beautiful feeling. I decide to go for a starter just because I'm a bit wary of his back row. So if he does manage to out any of my monsters, I still have a starter to be able to pop off with plays next turn. Now this is where I make the mistake. I actually put Baguska in attack position. Now I forgot to take Baguska's material off per its effect. So during the standby phase you need to remove a material from Baguska, otherwise you send that card to the grave. But I did remember to do that eventually. But here is where I made the mistake. I should have left Baguska in defense position because I wasn't planning to special summon with my, normal summon my starter, because I had board presence already. I should have left Baguska in defense position, because if he does draw into a monster, Baguska would immediately put that monster in defense position and negate its effect. But Baguska is actually in attack position, which is a bit annoying because he does actually manage to draw into a light stage off his Pot of Extravagance, which would then is going to net him his Candina, and then Candina is going to net him another search, which will allow him to get further into his deck and actually thin out his deck and draw into some more interaction. So he actually activates Light Stage's effect to target one of my set spells and traps, and if I can't use it in the end phase, it gets sent to the graveyard. So he normal summons his Candina and gets himself a search, which is a little bit annoying because my monsters are weak at the moment. They're 1100 attack each, which is easily beaten over with most main deck monsters, to be honest. For a Link 2, it's not all that powerful, and he can actually clear my board. Now if I'd have left Baguska in defense position, he wouldn't have been able to get a search off his Candina, and he would have been in defense position, and my link monsters can't go into defense position, so he actually attacks over one of my link monsters, and you can't proc any of their effects to revive in the battle phase. Now when you get the Link 4, you can actually do that. You can actually tag out in the battle phase with the Link 4 to be able to proc both of their effects to be able to pop and draw at the same time. But unfortunately here he manages to clear my board by attacking over both of those monsters and doing a little bit of damage. And now he's actually got a bit more of a board presence. So I still do have Baguska on field, and I'm in a bit of a dilemma. Do I put Baguska back into defense position, or do I leave it as it is? So he's attacked over both of my monsters. He's removed my engine, to be honest, and then he actually sends my I think I had a Solemn Strike set in the Spell and Trap card zone to the graveyard. Now in this instance, I put Baguska back in defense position and try and stall out for a little bit, and this is probably where I kind of misplayed. Now the reason why I put him in defense position and then attack over his Trickstar Licorice is because I was fearing the Corobane in hand. Obviously I wasn't aware of what he had in hand, apart from his Candina. So I put it in defense position, mainly because I didn't want to lose the whole of my board to a chained Corobane. So I actually have to send my Baguska to the graveyard now. So Baguska's off field, and he actually chains summon limit to my summon of my Live Twin Leela, which is a horrible feeling because my effect is going to resolve. So Leela's going to be able to special summon from deck, but I'm going to hit summon limits cap of 2 summons per turn, which means I can't do a whole host of stuff. So I decided to summon from deck anyway to be able to just thin my deck, just in case I can draw into any kind of interaction like a Cosmic Cyclone or anything such. And he has a whole host to set up. He's got a Candina in hand, which he can normal summon. He's got a Licorice. He's also got a Light Stage to be able to just basically snipe all my set back row. He's got Summon Limit on field, which I can't do a lot about. And he's actually going to draw into even more Floodgates, which makes it a little bit more difficult. So he's targeting my back row with his Light Stage. Normal summon his Candina to net him yet another search. And in a simplified game state, ladies and gents, it's so difficult to be able to try and out Floodgates or stuff like that. Now I'm actually checking my graveyard to see if I can actually plus off Frost's effect, but I don't control any of the link monsters, mainly due to summon limit. So he grabs himself a search. He proceeds into battle phase, attacks over my Frost. I think I have an effect where if any of my opponent's monsters declare an attack, they have to pay 500 life points, and life points is something that is so difficult to track between these two decks, with the burn damage of Sunny Snitch and then Trickstar monsters just naturally doing burn damage. The life point totals can get a little bit crazy, to be honest, with 200 there, 200 there, and he did have the Corobane in hand when he attacked into my my Live Twin monster with his Corobane, which means it was the right decision not to attack with the Baguska, because I would have lost it early, which it doesn't really matter because I'm in a losing position anyway. So end phase, I proceed to special summon my Live Twin, or sorry, Evil Twin from deck. So I special summon my Leela, and he actually has a Solemn Strike, ladies and gents, and that is me out of resources. So he had summon limit on field. I had to use my Live Twin home in the end phase anyway, otherwise I would have lost it. He does have the Solemn Strike for the Leela, and then I'm out of resources, so I actually draw for my turn. I proceed to set a card and then just scoop it up. And that is me, ladies and gents. So Trickstar Control actually taking that match. It was a very interesting duel, a lot of back and forth, a lot of interaction, a few things that I could have done differently, but nevertheless the win goes to my opponent. So shout out to Yugi Tom, you took this one, bro. I'm gonna get you on the next one most definitely. And we find ourselves at the end of another video, ladies and gents. If you do like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.